staring at the wall, saying you've been washing my clothes. You sank your teeth to my wrist, and I bought one another dose. I tie my arm off just enough, I wanna swim in your pulse. I crave a chemical entwine, now it happens all the time. Where did you go? Open so slow, what can I say? Take me back to that same place.
People were lined up.
Hey, Intrepid Art viewers, it's James Kalm, the guy on the bike, and I just locked up the bike. We're down in SoHo on Worcester Street. We're going to run into the drawing center, see if we can get some views of an exhibition of drawings by Cecily Brown titled Rehearsal. This looks like a massive show, very well attended, and I would say that Cecily would be considered one of the most interesting or most popular youngish painters today. Well, I'll read a little bit from the wall text. Cecily Brown's first solo museum show in New York and the first exhibition dedicated to her drawings, Cecily Brown Rehearsal, foregrounds the artist's iterative reworking of motifs from her wide-ranging arsenal of source material. Prints by 18th century draftsman William Hogarth, pages from annual clip art books, and the cover of Jimi Hendrix's 1968 album Electric Ladyland are just some of the images that Brown renders again and again. These drawings are not studies for her paintings, but rather a distinct form of aesthetic inquiry, one that isolates the investigatory impulse that grounds her art in general. Well, I asked the lady at the reception desk if they had a checklist. She said no. So I'm just going to kind of go free form here. We'll move along and look at some of these. It's like a lot of this is pen and ink or even brush drawings, ink and brush. And most of this group, I would say, are probably in the 12 by 15 inch category. I think one of the things that has gotten Cecily a lot of interest, the Henley Park Hotel, is some of the explicit sexual images. Gosh, this is a series of drawings titled After Knox Martin. Watercolor and graphite on paper. Knox was one of my teachers when I first came to New York at the Art Students League. Most of these are watercolor on paper. Well, so viewers, let me apologize. The James Kalm report is not called the half-assed report for nothing because, well, I started out videoing this and I realized that my batteries ran out and then I hadn't brought my spares. I was a bad Boy Scout, so I'm back here like a week later to try to finish the report. This is untitled, After Bosch 2015 watercolor pastel and oil on paper. And this might be one of the most impressive pieces in the show. And I would say that this is probably about maybe 40 by 60, so 3.5 by 5. And yeah, this is a very heavy watercolor paper. This is another large, impressive piece. This is also untitled, after Bosch and Boldini. Well, I actually chatted with a couple of artist friends over the weekend about the show, and Cecily's got a lot of fans, and a lot of people, well, they like the explicit sexual content. Untitled, after Bosch. It's watercolor on paper. It's probably about 12 by 14. It's titled Paradise Fighting Lions. Watercolor and gouache on paper. Well, Cecily is one of the glamorous superstar painters, and I believe her father was David Sylvester, a very well-respected, I think he's passed away, but he's a very well-respected art critic, British art critic. And he spent a lot of time in New York in the 50s and 60s, and was an acquaintance with people like Franz Klein and Larry Rivers and some of the other members of the New York school. It's going to be interesting to look at how growing up with someone like that as a father, it might have influenced your, not only your becoming an artist, but the kind of art you're looking at. This is titled Strolling Actress After Hogarth. And I believe this is pastel. Another big sheet of paper. That's probably maybe 4.5 by 6 feet, maybe. I was in, I believe it was Quebec a couple of summers ago, and saw an exhibition of the Chapman brothers, and I was impressed with a lot of their etchings and their drawings, and they also credited Hogarth with a lot of their inspirations. This is a whole series called Carnival and Lent, after Bruege, maybe one of my favorite artists. And while I'm looking at these sheets, and I'm thinking that this looks like these are from a block. This is also Strolling Actress After Hogarth 2015, watercolor and ink on paper. And, well, Cecily is a very good draftsperson. And also I like the way that she's able to get these kind of quick, almost slapdash gestures to end up reading as figurative elements in this. We had a little monkey. I think Hogarth is a genius, and his engravings are maybe one of the best social commentaries on this was a 17th century London society. Raker's Progress. This is Untitled, 2015. Oh, that's almost like a little Baroque cartouche thing. And in a lot of ways, Cecily is working kind of like an abstract expressionist, kind of splashing things down spontaneously, and then in a lot of cases kind of digging through the organically produced stains and things and kind of pulling out figurative elements. These are all part of an Untitled Ladyland series. I'll get up here and you can see that these are all kind of dealing with the same subject matters. Kind of makes me think of the Ang's painting from the harem. Well, I was just reading an interview with David Solly. It was conducted by Brian O'Donnell for something called Purple magazine. And well, they were talking about how David was able to mix and match and juxtapose images that were totally unexpected. But I think David always kind of had a more formalistic or maybe geometrical sensibility. And in a lot of ways, I think Cecily kind of does a similar thing, except that she keeps it very organic, kind of figure related, but we've got like an owl floating there and birds' heads and parts of cats. I think I like this one. It's probably about 16 by 20, 22. Well, when I first saw this piece, I actually thought there was some collage in there. She's got some nice flat areas, but this is all pastel. This is titled Combing the Hair, Beach 2015, watercolor pastel ink and oil on paper. I think that in many ways I like Cecily's palettes, the color that she uses on the paper. It seems in some ways, a lot fresher and less muddy than some of her paintings. Oh, I just noticed that they've actually painted the walls in here kind of a off-white pink. These are all untitled. Ink and watercolor on paper. That looks like newsprint. I wonder if she's looking at Thomas Rowlandson. I think he was a semi-famous contemporary of Hogarth. Maybe he was a little later, but he was known for his erotic engravings. And I wonder if she starts out looking at these in one way and then maybe flips the pad. This nicely rendered little ink sketch. It's a ballpoint. It's titled Untitled St. Anthony, which may also be a reference to Bosch. These are also all untitled. And, okay, so we've got the spanker, the spanky. You know, some of these that are more worked up, I like the kind of the grittiness, the grunginess of this. So, makes me think that she probably kept these around the studio and ground away on them maybe in between painting sessions. This is nice. We've kind of got little vignettes there in the corner. Oh, and this refers to a Degas. Well, that's interesting. I know Degas spent maybe the last 10 or 15 of his years concentrating on pastel. This is also Degas, one of his dancers. More, this is from an early Degas. It's like the Spartan Riders or something like that. Well, coming into the home stretch, it's titled Nude After Degas, 2013, and I like the way that she's using the empty part of the page, and also she's, although it's simple, she's got some nice color things and make a nice contrast there. This is Combing the Hair After Degas, 2013. No, she does a great job of drawing with the brush. It's a great talent. It's also combing the hair after Degas. I'd say this is probably about 18 by 26, 28, something like that. And I like the way that she's masked out the backgrounds. This kind of pale vermilion. It's untitled Chambre. This kind of made me think of a monoprint. And, well, it's interesting the way she kind of gets these brushstroke gestures in there. Let's look at the sketchbooks. Okay, so a lot of this is after Hogarth. Yeah, there's a wonderful Hogarth piece called Gin Lane. Ballpoint pen. And we'll wrap up looking at this. Oh, I like this kind of intimate little pocket sketchbook. This is titled Analysis of Beauty after Hogarth. Yeah, I like the intimate feeling. It's almost like we've got a Mickey Mouse brush drawing underneath her somehow, or that maybe that's a face. I think Nicole Eisenman is another artist that does a lot of great work on paper. This is James Kalm reporting on Cecily Brown, Rehearsal, here at the Drawing Center. You can leave all of your responses in the post section. And thank you, Kate. Thank you. Thanks.